All right, let's just jump right into it. So in early 2026, a couple of public appearances by President Trump really set off this huge debate online and in the media. And it was all about one thing, his health. Now, this isn't exactly a new topic, right? But these recent events, they pushed it right back into the spotlight.
And that really is the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? Are we just looking at a couple of one-off incidents with perfectly simple explanations? Or is this part of something bigger? That's what we're going to get into. We'll break down what happened, what the official story is, and what the experts are saying about this whole thing.
So it all kicked off with something people could see with their own eyes. Back in January 2026, during a public event, folks noticed some pretty clear bruising on the president's left hand. And you know how the internet is. It immediately lit up with all sorts of speculation.
And then, just a month after that, the whole conversation shifted. It went from something physical, his hand, to something he said, a speech he gave in February. Well, that started a whole new firestorm of questions about his delivery and, his overall clarity.
Okay, so let's really dig into these two moments that got everyone talking. What exactly happened, and what did the White House have to say about it? So about that hand. It was first noticed during a Board of Peace signing event. President Trump's explanation was pretty simple, really. He said he just clipped his hand on a table. And to give a little more context here, it has been reported that he takes a daily 325 milligram dose of aspirin, which, as you may know, can make you bruise a lot more easily.
All right, and then we have the Champion of Coal event on February 11th. So as you can see here, during the speech, he seemed to really stumble over that key phrase. The words came out kind of mumbled. Then he just paused, right in the middle of it, and asked, "When did this come out, Mr. Speaker?" before picking back up. And I mean, you can probably guess what happened next. That clip went absolutely viral.
You can bet the political reaction was immediate. And it was sharp. Take this quote from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who's obviously a major political rival. He posted on X saying, "The sundowning starts earlier every day." I mean, that shows you exactly how his opponents jumped on this, framing it as a sign of cognitive decline.
So, with all this chatter building up, the White House had to step in and try to get control of the story. Let's take a look at how they officially responded to all these concerns.
And this right here really lays out the two sides of the story, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got all the public speculation, the bruised hand, the slurred speech. And on the other, you have the White House's official line. The hand was just a minor accident, and all the talk about his speech? Well, that's just a baseless conspiracy theory cooked up by his political enemies.
And the administration's defense wasn't just a simple denial. It was, well, a full-throated defense. White House spokesman Davis Engel didn't just push back on the concerns. He came out with this really powerful statement, calling President Trump the sharpest, most accessible, and energetic president in American history. I mean, that's a seriously strong pushback, designed to just end the conversation right there.
But, of course, the conversation didn't stop there. And that brings us to the next piece of this puzzle, the analysis from outside experts. A lot of them started chiming in with their own theories based on what they were seeing in public. Okay, so one term you probably heard thrown around is phonemic paraphasia. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty straightforward. An expert from Cornell University suggested there might be instances of this in the president's speech. And as you can see, it's just a specific kind of speech error where you substitute a sound. Like saying papple when you mean to say apple.
And it wasn't just about specific word flubs. Some observers have pointed to a wider pattern of things. Things like a supposed decline in how complex his sentences are, what they describe as a strange gait, and speeches that seem to ramble and jump between topics. And the context that always seems to come up in these talks is the fact that his father, Fred Trump, had Alzheimer's disease.
But, and this is super important for balance, there are other much more mundane explanations for all this. Things like issues with dentures, or even just having a dry mouth, or being tired. And here's the absolute key takeaway that every credible expert will tell you. None of this is a real diagnosis. It can't be. This is all just observation from a distance, not a proper medical evaluation.
Now, standing against all of that speculation is one really powerful piece of data. 30 out of 30.
What's that? Well, that was his perfect score on something called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MoCA for short. It's a very common test used to screen for cognitive impairment, and according to his own physician, he absolutely aced it back in April 2025. The official report said he was in excellent cognitive and physical health.
So, to really wrap our heads around this whole debate, we kind of have to zoom out a bit, because what's happening now, it's not really new.
It's part of a conversation that's been going on for a while.
And this timeline really lays out that pattern. See, concerns about slurred speech, they first popped up way back in 2017. Then, fast forward to his second term, you've got that official doctor's report in April 2025 giving him a perfect score on the cognitive test. And then, boom, the 2026 incidents we just talked about that brought it all roaring back.
So when you look at it all together, you start to see this cycle, right? First, there's a public observation. That leads to a ton of media speculation. Then comes the official denial from the administration. And finally, you get the expert debate. And then, well, we all just kind of wait for the next thing to happen to kick off the cycle all over again.
And, all of this, it really leaves us with a much, much bigger question that goes way beyond just one person or one presidency. For any leader, in an age where every move is on camera, where do you draw that line? The line between their right to private health information and the public's right to know if they're fit to lead? It's a really tough question, and there's definitely no easy answer.